My son raised his glass to 200 guests and said, "To my father, a man who built a great company but couldn't build a retirement." Laughter rippled through the room. I set down my champagne. I looked him dead in the eyes and said, "Son, the company you just insulted, it's still in my name and I'm not retiring today. I'm 70 years old. I spent 40 years building this business from nothing. That toast cost him everything. My name is Arthur. For 40 years, I ran a construction company that built half the bridges in 3 states. I kept the deed in my name because I trusted my son to learn the trade, not to write me off in front of a room full of people. That toast wasn't just humiliating, it was legally dangerous. If a company stays in a parent's name while a child runs it, every liability falls back on the founder. And 70% of family businesses never survive the handoff. But here's what nobody at that party knew. I had already signed the transfer papers that morning. I just hadn't announced it yet. The question is, what made a father choose that moment to reveal the truth? To understand why I said what I said in that moment, you need to understand how we got there. I started Archer Construction in 1984 with a single dump truck and a loan that kept me awake for 3 years. My wife Clara kept the books until she passed away 5 years ago. By then, we had built over 60 bridges, 3 hospitals, and a reputation that meant my handshake was worth more than any contract. My son David joined the company when he was 23. Bright kid, ambitious, wanted to modernize everything. I let him take over operations 6 years ago, but I kept the ownership. That was my mistake. Only 30% of family businesses survive to the second generation. 12% make it to the third. I knew those numbers, but I told myself David was different. He had the drive. What I didn't see was the pressure he was under. His wife Vanessa came from a family that never thought I was good enough. Her father was a real estate developer. Her mother wore designer dresses to Sunday brunch. They looked at my calloused hands and saw someone beneath them. Vanessa saw me the same way. She just hid it better. The pressure started small. David wanted to rebrand the company, make it look more modern. He wanted to move into residential development. I said no. We were bridge builders, that was our strength. He said I was stuck in the past. Then came the financial trouble. David had quietly taken out a line of credit against the company accounts. $2.3 million. He invested in a housing development that went under when interest rates spiked. I found out when the bank called me. I was the owner on file. I had to cover the debt. I paid it. I didn't tell anyone. I thought I was protecting my son, but I was actually feeding a problem that kept growing. The retirement party was his idea. He told me he wanted to honor me. He said all the employees would be there. 200 people, the mayor, the county commissioners. He said it was going to be the greatest night of my life. I believed him. The morning of the party, I drove to my attorney's office. Susan Chen. She'd been my lawyer for 20 years. I signed the papers transferring full ownership of Archer Construction to David, but I included one condition. A clause that Susan had written carefully, in language that would only matter if certain things happened. I put the envelope in my breast pocket and drove to the venue. The room was golden, chandeliers, white tablecloths. My son stood at the podium, microphone in hand. He looked confident. Vanessa sat in the front row, smiling like she had already won. David thanked the staff. He thanked the board, then he turned to me. He raised his glass. 200 people raised theirs. And he said those words. He said I built a great company but couldn't build a retirement. He said it was time for fresh blood. He said the future was here. The room laughed. Vanessa clapped. But what David didn't know was that the papers in my pocket included a clause that would let me reverse the transfer entirely if the successor engaged in behavior that damaged my reputation or the company's standing. And as the laughter died down, I reached into my breast pocket. The microphone was still hot. 200 people held their breath. And I made a choice that would unravel everything my son had built. I pulled the envelope from my breast pocket. The room went quiet. David's smile froze. Vanessa's hands gripped the edge of her chair. I held the papers up so the first row could see the letterhead. David, I said, I signed the transfer of ownership this morning. Full control of Archer Construction to you. But there's a condition. One clause my lawyer wrote in. It says that if the successor engages in any behavior that harms the company's reputation or my personal standing, the transfer is void. I let that hang in the air. Your toast just voided the transfer. The sound that came next was a vacuum, 200 people inhaling at once, then whispers, then someone dropped a glass. David's face went from white to red to something I'd never seen before. He looked at Vanessa. She looked at her phone. She was already texting someone. I folded the papers, placed them back in my pocket, and walked off the stage. I didn't look back. I walked through the crowd. People parted like I was carrying something contagious. I got to my car, started the engine, and drove home. The phone started ringing before I reached the driveway. First call was Susan Chen. She'd already heard. Someone at the party had recorded the whole thing and posted it online. Within an hour, it had 12,000 views. By midnight, it was regional news. By morning, it was national. The headline read, "Son humiliates father at retirement party, father reveals secret ownership clause." I didn't sleep that night. I sat in Clara's rocking chair and watched the oak tree she planted. The one I'd told David about in the contract. That oak tree was planted the spring before she got sick. It was 12 feet tall now. I kept thinking about roots, about what holds and what breaks. The next morning, David showed up at my door at 7 a.m. He looked like he hadn't slept either. His shirt was wrinkled. His eyes were bloodshot. He didn't knock. He used his key. I was at the kitchen table with coffee. "Dad, you can't do this. You can't just undo everything." I didn't undo anything, David. I signed the transfer. I just haven't delivered it yet. That's the same thing. It's not. The clause is triggered by behavior. What you did last night triggered it. He sat down across from me. He put his head in his hands. Vanessa is furious. Her parents are calling. The board is calling. Everyone thinks I'm a joke. You made yourself a joke, son. He looked up. You don't understand what it's like. You built this company in a different era. You had relationships. You had trust. I have to prove myself every single day. Vanessa's father told me I needed to show strength. He said a retirement party was the perfect place to demonstrate that I was in charge. I set my coffee down. Raymond told you to humiliate me. He said it would make me look decisive. Raymond is a real estate developer who lost $3 million in the crash. He has no credibility, and you listened to him. David didn't answer. He just stared at the table. I stood up. I need you to leave. I need you to think about what you've done, and I need you to understand that the transfer is on hold until I decide otherwise. He left without another word. The next call came from the bank. A VP named Marcus Cole. He said he needed to discuss the company's debt position. I told him to call David. He said he already had. David had told him I was no longer the owner. Marcus said he needed confirmation of the current ownership structure. I told him the truth. The company was still in my name. The transfer was pending. Marcus paused. Then he said something that turned my blood cold. "Mr. Archer, I have a loan application here dated 6 weeks ago. It's for $4.2 million. It was submitted under your name. It lists you as the borrower. Are you aware of this?" I wasn't. I told him I wasn't. He said the application had forged signatures, my signatures. He said he was obligated to report it to the authorities. I hung up and called Susan. Susan arrived at my house within an hour. She brought a notepad and a legal pad and a face that said she already knew more than she was telling. She sat at my kitchen table, the same table where she'd drawn up the transfer papers. She opened her notebook. "Arthur, I need you to tell me everything you know about David's financial decisions over the last 6 months. I told her about the $2.3 million line of credit, the failed housing development, the calls from the bank that I'd paid off quietly. She wrote it all down. Then she said, "There's more. I ran a background check on Vanessa's father, Raymond. He has 2 prior bankruptcy filings. He also has a pending lawsuit from a contractor who claims he never paid for work on a project that involved David's development." What are you telling me? Raymond was not just an advisor. He was a partner. He and David formed a separate LLC 6 months ago without telling you. They used company assets as collateral. The failed development wasn't David's mistake. It was Raymond's project and David funded it. I felt the floor shift under me. David used my company to fund his father-in-law's development. Worse, Raymond has a history of doing this. He finds family members with access to capital, convinces them to invest, and when the project fails, he walks away clean. David is the one on the hook, and since the company is in your name, you're on the hook too. But I paid off the line of credit. You paid off one piece. There are 2 more. David opened a second line of credit under a different bank last month. He used your signature again. Forged. The total exposure is now $6.7 million. I couldn't speak. I just stared at the oak tree through the window. Susan continued. The bank is filing a fraud report. The district attorney will investigate. David is looking at felony charges. And because the company is still in your name, you're the victim. But if they can prove you had knowledge, you could be complicit. I didn't know. I know you didn't, but we need to prove it, and we need to decide how to handle the company. Can I still transfer it to him? Technically, yes, but if you do, you're transferring a liability. The debt follows the company. David will be bankrupt within months, and Raymond will disappear with whatever money he still has. I sat back, the chair creaked. The house was silent except for the clock on the wall, Clara's clock. She'd bought it at an antique shop 20 years ago. It still kept perfect time. Susan, what happens if I don't transfer? Then you own the debt. You're personally liable for $6.7 million. Your house, your savings, the company itself, all at risk. Unless we can prove David and Raymond acted fraudulently. If we can show that David forged your signature and that Raymond orchestrated the scheme, we can have the debt assigned to them personally. But that means pressing charges against your son. I closed my eyes. I thought about David as a boy, building bridges with Legos on this same kitchen floor. I thought about Clara holding him on her lap. I thought about the night he graduated college and told me he wanted to join the company. I was so proud. Susan, is there any other way? There's one. You could sell the company. Use the proceeds to pay off the debt. What's left goes to David, but only if he agrees to a legal separation from Raymond and Vanessa. Would he agree to that? He might, but you need to be prepared for what comes next. Vanessa will fight, Raymond will fight, and David will have to choose between his father and his wife. I heard a car pull into the driveway. I looked through the window. It was David's truck. He was alone this time. He walked to the door and knocked, not with his key, knocked like a stranger. I opened the door. He looked smaller than he had an hour ago, broken. "Dad, I need to tell you something." "Come in." He walked to the kitchen. He saw Susan. He didn't seem surprised. He sat down and put his hands flat on the table. Vanessa left. She took the kids. She said she's going to her parents' house. She said she won't come back until I fix this. Fix what? Fix you. She wants me to force you to complete the transfer. She says her father has a lawyer ready to sue you for defamation, for what you said at the party. I said you humiliated me. That's not defamation, that's fact. Dad, they're not bluffing. Raymond has connections. He knows people. He's already talking to the press. He's going to paint you as a bitter old man who can't let go of control. He's going to say you abused me emotionally for years, that you sabotaged my career. And you're going to let him. David looked at his hands, his voice cracked. I don't know what I'm going to do. I looked at Susan. She gave me the smallest nod. I pulled the envelope from my pocket, the transfer papers still sealed. I held them up. David, I know about the second line of credit. I know about Raymond's LLC. I know about the forged signatures. His face went white. I know you didn't mean for it to go this far, but it has, and now there are consequences. Dad, please, I was trying to prove myself. By stealing from me. It wasn't stealing. I was going to pay it back. The development was supposed to work, Raymond said. Raymond said, when are you going to stop listening to him? David started crying, not the quiet kind, the kind that comes from somewhere deep. He bent over in his chair and sobbed. I didn't move. I let him cry. After a minute, he looked up. What do I do? I handed him the envelope. Read the clause, read the date. I signed these papers the morning of the party before you made your speech. You could have had everything, but you chose to destroy me instead. He opened the envelope. His hands were shaking. He read the clause, then he looked at me. There's a date here. Why did you sign it that morning? Because I wanted to give you the company while I was still alive to see it. I wanted to watch you succeed. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted to see if you would earn it. He put the papers down. He stared at them for a long time. Then he said the words I never expected to hear. Dad, I have one more thing to show you, something I should have told you months ago. He pulled out his phone. He opened an email. He turned the screen toward me. It was a message from Raymond to David, dated 3 months before. The subject line read, "The retirement plan." I started reading, and what I saw changed everything. The email was dated 3 months before the party. It was long, detailed. Raymond had written it with the confidence of a man who believed he'd never be caught. David, here's the plan. We need to force your father's hand. He'll never transfer willingly. He's too attached, so we make him want to transfer. We embarrass him publicly at the retirement party. You give a toast that makes him look obsolete. The crowd laughs. The video goes viral. He'll be humiliated. Then you offer him a way out, sign the transfer and retire quietly. He'll take it to save face. I read it twice, then a third time. My son had been planning this with his father-in-law for 3 months. The toast, the humiliation, the laughter, all of it was scripted. David, did you write this email? No, Raymond wrote it. He CC'd me. I didn't say no. You didn't say no. You went along with it. I thought it was just talk. I thought he was joking. But then he kept pushing. He said it would work. He said you'd be happier retired. I convinced myself it was for the best. Because you wanted the company. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I handed the phone back to Susan. She read the email. Her face hardened. Arthur, this changes things. This is evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud. Raymond knowingly participated in a scheme to deceive you, and David, by not stopping it, was complicit. David's voice was barely a whisper. I didn't know about the forged signatures, I swear. Raymond handled the loan applications. He said he had a notary friend. I didn't ask questions. You didn't ask questions because you didn't want to know. Silence. Susan stood up. I need to make some calls. The bank will want to see this email. The district attorney will too. David, I strongly advise you to get your own attorney. Now. David looked at me. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't undo $6.7 million in debt. Sorry doesn't bring back my trust. He left. I sat at the table for an hour. The oak tree outside swayed in the wind. I thought about Clara. She would have known what to do. She always did. The next 48 hours were a blur. The story went national. Every news channel picked it up. Retirement party revenge. Father reveals hidden clause after son's humiliating toast. The video had 30 million views. People called me a hero. They called David a villain. They called Vanessa a gold digger. But the story shifted when Raymond's past surfaced. A reporter dug up his bankruptcy filings, his pending lawsuit, his pattern of targeting family members with money. Suddenly, David looked less like a villain and more like a victim. Vanessa called me. It was the first time she'd ever called me directly. "Arthur, you need to stop this. You're destroying my family." "Your family? Vanessa, your father orchestrated a scheme to defraud me. My son is facing felony charges, and you knew." "I didn't know." "Stop lying." She paused. "I suspected, but I didn't ask. I thought Raymond was helping David. He said it would make David look strong. By humiliating me, by forging my signature, by doing what needed to be done. You were never going to let go, Arthur. You were suffocating David. He needed to break free. By breaking the law. He was desperate. So were you. You wanted the lifestyle, the house, the status. You married a construction heir and you wanted him to be something he wasn't." She hung up. The bank filed charges. The district attorney's office opened an investigation. David was summoned for questioning. Raymond was arrested at his home on a Thursday morning. I watched it on the news. Handcuffs, cameras. He looked old, defeated. But he didn't stay quiet. Raymond gave an interview from jail. He claimed I was the real mastermind. He said I had manipulated David for years, that I had set up the forgery myself to frame him. He said I was a bitter old man who couldn't stand to see his son succeed. The internet went wild. Half believed him, half believed me. The truth was somewhere in between. Susan called me with bad news. "Arthur, the district attorney says the evidence is circumstantial on Raymond. The email helps, but it's not definitive. David's testimony will be crucial. If he testifies against Raymond, Raymond goes down. If he doesn't, it's your word against theirs." "What does David say?" "He's scared. Vanessa is pressuring him to stay quiet. She says if he testifies, she'll divorce him and take the kids. He's choosing between his wife and his father." "Yes. And if he chooses her, then you're the one who looks guilty. The bank may come after you personally. You could lose everything." I sat with that for a long time. Then David called. His voice was hollow. "Dad, I made a decision." "Tell me." "I'm going to testify. I'm going to tell the truth. Everything. The emails, the plans, the forged signatures. I'm going to put Raymond in prison." "And Vanessa?" "She already left. She took the kids to her mother's. She said she won't come back if I do this." "You're willing to lose your family." "I already lost them. I lost them the moment I agreed to that plan. I have to do the right thing now. For you, for myself, for the kids, so they don't grow up thinking this is how you treat people." I didn't know what to say, so I said the only thing that mattered. "I'm proud of you, David." He cried, I cried. We stayed on the phone for an hour. The court date was set for a Monday in June. I walked into the courthouse alone. Susan was there. David was there. Raymond was there in an orange jumpsuit. Vanessa sat in the back row. She didn't look at me. David took the stand. He testified for 3 hours. He told the truth, every detail. The plan, the loans, the forgery. He named Raymond. He named the notary. He named everyone. When he finished, the courtroom was silent. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They found Raymond guilty on all counts: conspiracy, fraud, forgery. He was sentenced to 7 years. David was given immunity in exchange for his testimony, but the damage was done. Archer Construction was bankrupt. The debt crushed it. I sold the remaining assets for pennies on the dollar, enough to pay off the loans. Nothing left. I sat in my empty house. The oak tree was still there. I thought about Clara, about 40 years of work, about a company I built with my hands, about a son I tried to protect. And I realized something. The transfer papers I signed that morning, the ones I never delivered, they had a clause that said the transfer would be void if David acted against my interests. But there was another clause, one Susan wrote quietly without telling me. If the successor is convicted of fraud, the company automatically reverts to the founder, including all assets and liabilities. That meant I still owned the debt. But there was one asset I didn't sell, a small piece of land on the river, Clara's favorite spot. She'd made me promise never to sell it. I had kept that promise. And on that land there was a cabin where I had hidden something I had never told anyone about. I drove there that night. The moon was full. I unlocked the cabin door. In the corner was a safe. I opened it, and I found what Clara had left me. The safe was small, black metal. I hadn't opened it in 10 years. Clara had given me the combination on her deathbed. She said, "Arthur, there's something in the cabin. You'll know when to open it." I had forgotten. I had buried it under grief and work and the daily noise of running a company. I spun the dial, left, right, left. The lock clicked. Inside was a single folder, thick, yellowed at the edges. I opened it. It was a life insurance policy, $2 million, taken out 23 years ago, paid in full. Clara had named me as the beneficiary, but there was a note attached, handwritten in her careful script. "Arthur, if you're reading this, something has gone wrong. I hope it never comes to this, but I knew David. I knew his ambition. I knew he would struggle under your shadow. I wanted to make sure you would be okay if he ever tried to take what wasn't his. Use this to start over, or give it to him if he learns. The money is not the point. The point is that I trusted you to know what to do." I sat on the cabin floor. The paper shook in my hands. Clara had known. She had seen the future I couldn't see. She had protected me from her son, her own son, because she loved me more than she feared what I might discover. I drove back to the house that night. The oak tree was dark against the moon. I sat in Clara's rocking chair and thought about what to do. $2 million wouldn't rebuild Archer Construction, but it would pay off the remaining debt. It would give David a second chance. It would buy the land back, maybe. It would give me time. I called David the next morning. He answered on the first ring. "Dad, is everything okay?" "David, I need to see you. Come to the house." He arrived within the hour. He looked different, thinner, older. His eyes had the hollow look of someone who had been through something. We sat at the kitchen table. I put the insurance policy in front of him. "Your mother left this. 23 years ago, she knew you might do something like this, and she prepared for it." David read the note. His hand went to his mouth. He started crying again. "She knew I would fail her." "No, she knew you would have to choose, and she trusted me to help you make the right choice." We sat in silence for a long time. Then I told him my plan. We would use the money to pay off the debt. We would sell the company assets I hadn't already sold. We would keep the river land, Clara's land, and build something new. A small business. A bridge repair company. Nothing flashy, just honest work. David would work alongside me, not as a successor. As a partner, equal. We would rebuild trust one job at a time. It would take years, maybe forever. He agreed. The next 6 months were hard. Raymond's trial was national news. Vanessa filed for divorce. She got custody of the kids, but David got visitation. He saw them every other weekend. The kids didn't understand why their father was sad. He told them the truth in words they could understand. He had made mistakes. He was fixing them. We started the new company in a rented garage. No employees, just 2 men, a welding rig, and a pickup truck. We took small jobs, residential driveways, farm culverts, a pedestrian bridge in a county park. The first time we worked alongside each other, I felt like I was teaching him all over again. He was 23 again, eager, clumsy, asking questions. I was patient. I had learned patience the hard way. One afternoon, we finished a job early. We sat on the tailgate of the truck, drinking coffee from a thermos. The sun was low. The air smelled like cut grass and rust. "Dad, do you ever think about the party?" "Every day." "Do you regret it?" "Which part, the toast or what I did after?" "Both." I thought about it. I thought about the golden light, the laughter, the envelope in my pocket, the moment I decided to speak. "I regret that it happened. I regret that you felt you had to do it, but I don't regret what I said. It was the truth, and sometimes truth hurts. You could have just let it go. You could have given me the company anyway. And watched you destroy yourself. No, I couldn't." He nodded. He understood. We worked for 3 years. The company grew to 5 employees. We got a contract to repair a historic bridge in the next county. It was the kind of work I had started with. It felt like coming home. David bought a small house near the river. He fixed it up himself. He planted a garden. He started dating a woman named Alina, a school teacher who had 2 kids of her own. She was kind. She didn't care about his past. I met her at dinner one night. She shook my hand firmly. She looked me in the eye. "I know what happened," she said. "I know David made mistakes, but I also know he's trying, and I know you're trying too." I liked her. The kids, David's kids, came to visit more often. They called me Grandpa. They didn't know the full story. They knew their father and I worked together. They knew we built things. That was enough. On the 5th anniversary of the party, David showed up at my door. He had a bottle of whiskey, 2 glasses. We sat on the porch watching the oak tree. "Dad, I want to tell you something." "Go ahead." "You were right that night. You were right about everything. I was trying to take something I hadn't earned, and you stopped me. I was trying to protect you. I know, it took me a long time to understand that, but I do now." We drank the whiskey. The moon rose. The tree cast a long shadow across the yard. "There's one more thing," David said. "I went to see Raymond in prison last month." "Why?" "I wanted to tell him I forgave him, not for what he did to you, for what he did to me. I wanted to let it go." "Did you?" "I think so." He apologized. He said he was jealous. Of you, of what you built. He said he always wanted to be a builder, but he never had the discipline, so he tried to tear you down instead. That's not an excuse. No, but it's an explanation. I told him I was moving on. I told him I had a new life. He said he was glad. I looked at my son. He was not the man who stood on that stage 5 years ago. He was someone else, someone I could trust. "David, I want to give you something." I went inside. I came back with the original transfer papers, the ones I had signed that morning, the ones with the clause. They were crumpled, yellowed, but still valid. I held them out. "These are still yours if you want them." He stared at them. "Dad, the company is gone. There's nothing left to transfer." "Not the company, the name. Archer Construction, it's still registered. I kept the trademark. It's yours if you want it." He took the papers. He held them like they were made of glass. "Dad, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. Just build something good with it." He folded the papers, put them in his pocket. We sat on the porch until the stars came out. A few weeks later, David announced he was starting a new company, Archer Bridge and Iron. He hired 2 of the men we had trained. He got a contract to repair a railroad bridge in the next state. It was small, but it was his. This time, he didn't need to steal it. I showed up at the first job site. I didn't have to. I wanted to. He was standing at the edge of the ravine, looking at the blueprints. He looked nervous, but he looked ready. "Need a hand?" I asked. He smiled. "Always, Dad, always." We worked together that day. The sun was hot. The steel was heavy, but it felt right. It felt like the beginning of something. That evening, I drove back to the cabin. I sat on the porch and watched the river. I thought about Clara, about the insurance policy. about the note. She had trusted me to know what to do, and I had done it, not perfectly, not quickly, but I had done it. The oak tree at the house was taller now. It had survived every storm. It would survive more. I thought about what I learned, that a man's name is not the same as his legacy, that a company can be rebuilt, that a son can be saved, that love, real love, is not about control. It's about letting go and trusting that what you built will hold. I closed my eyes. I heard Clara's voice, the way she used to hum when she was gardening. I felt the weight of the years lift. The next morning I drove to the garage. David was already there unloading steel beams. He waved. I waved back. We had work to do. Years passed. The work continued. But something had shifted that I didn't fully understand until much later. David and I built Archer Bridge and Iron into a solid company. Nothing like the old one. Smaller, better. We hired veterans. We trained apprentices. We took jobs other companies wouldn't touch, and we did them well. But the real change wasn't in the balance sheet. It was in the silence between us, the kind of silence that doesn't need filling, the kind that comes when you've said everything that matters. People still ask me about the party. They want to know if I regret it, if I would do it differently. I tell them the same thing every time. I regret that it was necessary, but I don't regret that it happened. Because that night forced something into the open. It broke the illusion that we could avoid the hard conversations. It stripped away the pretense that love means never saying no. Family businesses fail at a staggering rate. 70% don't survive the second generation. Most fail because someone couldn't let go, or someone tried to take what wasn't earned, or both. We almost became that statistic. We almost lost everything, but the foundation held, not because the company was strong, because we finally understood that the foundation isn't the business, it's the relationship. Clara knew that. She left me a note that said the money wasn't the point. She was right. The point was trust. The point was knowing when to fight and when to let go. I think about that oak tree she planted. The one that survived every storm. It's still there. It's 20 feet tall now. Every spring it drops acorns. Some of them take root, some don't. That's how it works. So if you're watching this and you're the one holding on too tight, or the one trying to take something before it's ready, ask yourself one question. What are you really building? A legacy isn't a company. It's not a chair in the corner office. It's not the money in the safe. It's the people you taught to stand on their own. It's the moments you chose honesty over comfort. It's the handshake that means something. I'm 75 now. David runs the company. I show up when he asks. I sit on the porch and watch the river. I hold my grandchildren. I tell them stories about their grandmother. And every time I see that oak tree, I remember, some things are worth fighting for, and some things are worth letting go. If you made it this far, subscribe, because the stories that change us are the ones we don't see coming.